Macro environment review. When analyzing a retailer's previous trading season, consider internal factors like product performance and external factors like PEST, which stands for politics, economy, social culture, and tech. These factors will shape the postmortem report. Political. Political climate can have a huge effect on consumer sentiment. The less confident you are about the future of your country, the less you will think about spending your money. Economic. Current economic climate will reflect on the consumer's financial ability and spending habits. A flourishing economy makes it alright for people to spend more. An uncertain economy makes people feel the need to spend less. Social cultural trends. Changing attitudes and bigger society trends can also impact decision making for consumers. Example of this are TikTok trends and influencers. Technological changes. Technology is constantly evolving and new developments can have a huge impact on the fashion industry. Example of this are fashion being more accessible due to online shops and fabrics being cheaper because of machines. Importance of conducting a range review. Buyers and merchandisers constantly check on products during development and trading to ensure they're on track for launch and meeting financial targets. At the end of the season, they also need to review performance. This review looks at what sold well and why, what didn't sell and why, what can be improved for next season, products, suppliers, categories, and departments. They present findings, often with data and samples, to teams, sometimes including designers and tech people, to learn from successes and mistakes, and apply those lessons to future plans. Sharing insights and best practices helps everyone improve, especially the unpredictable world of fashion retail. It's about creating a supportive environment where teams can learn from each other. The range of postmortem. At the end of each season, they analyze how product ranges and categories performed. They identify what helped or hurt sales. The report helps plan the next season's products, assortment, and budget. The report includes best and worst sellers, sales data, markdowns, margins, etc., consumer behavior, sell through, returns, comparisons this year versus last year. This info helps them make smarter decisions for the next season. What makes a best slash worst seller? They're trying to figure out what drove an item's sales, success, or failure. For this bestseller, it was a combination of things. This is the Kumot inspired polo. The price was affordable compared to competitors. The trend was spot on for customer brand and season, and the fabric was good quality, cost effective, and practical. The style flattered most body types, and the color and print were on trend and flattering. By understanding what worked, they can replicate that success in future products. Analysis informs range planning. So, buyers and merchandisers use data on best sellers and worst sellers to shape future product ranges. It's not just about carrying forward the winners and dropping the losers. They need to understand what made the product succeed or fail in the first place. They dig deeper into factors like style, price, and trend to inform their decisions. It's about figuring out the why behind the sales performance, not just the outcome. For example, these items are all bestsellers, but the crisscross front dress won't be carrying forward for the next year because it's mainly trend driven and won't last, unlike the other two. These, however, are worst sellers. The reason why the red jumper is a worst seller is because it was released in a bad time. If it was released in a season like winter, it would have sold well. Budget and quantities. By looking at past sales and spending, they estimate the range's value and allocate budgets accordingly. All of this feeds into creating the merchandise plan, which is crucial for both product and financial planning. The merchandise plan. In fashion retail, businesses measure performance against set criteria. At the start of each season, they make forecasts predicting sales based on past data and market demand. Merchandisers play a key role here. They set budgets, allocate stock, and advise on margins. Buyers decide what products to buy, but merchandisers decide how much to buy and in what variations. Merchandisers need to consider past sales and predict future trends to hit targets. They're crucial in getting the right products in the right quantities. Think of it like a roadmap for stock and sales for a season. Retailers create this plan 6 to 12 months ahead, but fast fashion brands might work closer to the season to catch the latest trends. Here's how it works. They develop a sales plan with key sales ratios based on how things went last year. Once that's approved, they create a stock plan, splitting it across categories and styles. The thing is, fashion sales can be super unpredictable, so having a solid merchandising plan is crucial. It helps them prepare for whatever happens. And growth. Growth is crucial because it helps develop the brand, profits, and keeps them competitive. It's also key for spotting new opportunities. Businesses can't stand still. They're either moving forward or sliding back. To stay ahead, they need to be proactive, not reactive. Examples of successful brands in the Philippines are Pen Shopee, Cultura, Rags to Riches, and Don't Blame the Kids. Measuring growth can be tricky, especially with fashion products that are super unpredictable. That's where, like for like, sales growth comes in. It helps buyers and merchandisers see where growth really happened, shipping out external factors. LFL is considered a more accurate way to assess business performance because it shows true sales turnover growth, not just total growth. Understanding demand and sales forecasting. Once they figure out the financial target, they need to translate that into how much stock they need to meet it. The merchandisers look at the range plan and recommends quantities to source. The goal is to have enough stock to meet demand and drive sales growth, which is a key performance indicator for the business. But it's not just about looking at past sales data. They need to consider external factors like trends, consumer needs, and upcoming events. They need to anticipate what customers will want and when, like during holidays or special occasions. Understanding these patterns help them plan product ranges and drive sales. And with international retail, it's even more complex. They need to consider different cultural holidays and consumer profiles. It's a mix of data analysis, fashion knowledge, and intuition. Here, here's an example of a retail marketing calendar. Here is a retail marketing calendar of 2023. It shows all of the holidays in all of the months and the countries that celebrate them. Flexible planning. Good merchandise management means being prepared for the ups and downs of trade. You've got planned events like seasonal changes, sales periods, and holidays. Those are predictable. Buyers and merchandisers can anticipate these and plan accordingly. But then there are unplanned factors. unexpected weather, political events, or sudden trends sparked by influencers. These can either hurt or help sales, and merchandisers need to be quick on their feet to respond. It's about being flexible and having experience to navigate both the expected and unexpected, and remember, when some products get all the attentions, others might suffer. It's a balancing act. Examples of unplanned factors that had negative effects are fur protests during runway shows and Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle ad that sparked backlash online. Examples of unplanned factors that had positive effects are Anokia's runaway bride for Vetemont and Naomi Campbell falling on Vivienne Westwood runway. The sales forecast plan. After setting budgets, growth strategies, and planning events, the sales plan breaks down into a seasonal forecast showing needed monthly and weekly sales. The merchandiser is trying to figure out exactly how many sales they need to make per month and per week. They're looking at things like seasonal sales variation, like how autumn winter products tend to sell more because they're higher priced. They're also looking at sales peaks, like how swimwear sells a lot, but only for a short time before summer. And then there are sales ratios, like how people tend to buy more tops than bottoms. But here's the thing, these are just guidelines. The sales forecast plan needs to be flexible, so they can adapt to opportunities and changes. The merchandisers uses this plan to figure out how many products they need to sell each month and week, and then they monitor it closely once shading starts. They analyze the sales data to create daily, weekly, monthly, and seasonal plans, comparing actual sales to their forecast. It's a constant process of reforecasting and adjusting. Buyer and merchandiser instinct. So we've been talking about how data and historical sales pattern play a big role in planning future ranges. But here's the thing. Buyers and merchandisers also need to trust their instincts. They need to understand the brand they're working for, strategy and objectives, and make decisions that fit with that. Each company has its own vibe and goals, and that influences their decision. Some brands are all about pushing fashion boundaries. Brands like Prada, Miu Miu, Balmain, while others focus on making trends accessible or keeping margins high, like Shein. The key is to know what the brand's about and make the decision that fits. Now, there's tons of data and research out there to help with decisions, but buyers and merchandisers need to avoid getting overwhelmed. They need to balance facts with their experience and instincts. Sometimes you just know what will work, even if the data doesn't scream it. And that's where insight, experience, and risk management come in. They're harder to measure, but they're crucial to making good decisions. At the end of the day, no spreadsheet or device can replace the human brain, pulling, pulling on experience, info, and instinct to make decisions. At the end of the day, no spreadsheet or device can replace the human brain, pulling on experience, info, and instinct to make decisions. Research planning. Brand strategy. So, when creating a new product range, buyers and merchandisers need to make sure it fits with their brand's overall strategy and values. They're looking at the company's mission statement, which is like the brand's purpose and what it stands for. This helps them understand what the company wants to be and how it wants to be seen by the public. The corporate strategy is the overall plan for the company. It's how they're going to achieve their mission. This includes things like growth, market positioning, and competitive advantage. It's like a roadmap for the next 1 to 5 years, outlining targets for sales revenue, profits, and other key areas.
Brand positioning. Brand positioning defines how a brand is perceived relative to its competitors in consumers' minds. It evolves over time as consumer needs and perceptions change. Understanding positioning helps brand compare themselves to competitors and identify areas for improvement. Tools like perception maps visually show customer perception, often using factors such as price, quality, fashionability, or sustainability as comparison axis. This is according to Roncha 2019. So, gumawa ako ng perceptual map based on the local brands and international brands dito sa atin in a high price, low price, axis, low sustainability, high sustainability. So, paano nga ba ito makakatulong? Basically, as a consumer or a customer, makikita ko yung brand comparison to each other. Also, this perception map can help companies know where they stand and how to improve or target a niche. Anyway, basically, the brand studied this so they know how customers see them versus the competitors. So they can figure out how to improve nga. Since ito, ginawa ko lang to anyway. For example lang naman, yung bench is a low price, low sustainability din. H&M, H&M naman is a high price, low sustainability. Yung mas pataas doon na price is Zara. Pare-pares lang silang low sustainability kasi nga mass market brands. Anyway, they compete mostly on affordability anyway. And trendiness. Hindi naman sa sustainability. So, yeah. Anyway. So, kami ayun, pen shop, low medium price, low sustainability. Kamiseta naman, low medium price, low sustainability din, but casual wear. Bio, medium price, medium sustainability. Same as plains and prints. Sa artwork naman is medium high price, but medium sustainability. The artwork is an indie fashion brand. Yung high sustainability na nilagay ko is rags to riches, which is medium price and high sustainability. Kasi nga eco-friendly and artisan made, etc. Anyway, naglagay din ako ng perception map, pero most on international naman siya. International brands. So, yeah.
Let's discuss market research. Market research is a process of collecting and analyzing information about significant aspects of a business, such as its target market, competitors, and trends. In the fashion industry, conducting extensive market research when creating a new product is essential to the success of a range. There are a few ways to conduct market research. First, we have comparative shops, or more commonly known as comp shops. Comp shops usually consist of buyers visiting competitor stores to analyze its product range by gathering information in terms of price, quality, design, and promotional activities. The purpose of this is to allow buyers to see any possible gaps in their own product range, as well as compare prices for competitive pricing. Next, we have retail data analytics. This refers to retailers collecting and analyzing data from sales transactions, customer purchases, inventory levels, and loyalty programs. With the development of technology and availability of online information, there has been a surge in capabilities in terms of product analysis. The available measures with which merchandisers can analyze their business have widened through brands and retailers' expansion into multi and omni-channel retailing. Now let's discuss consumer research. Consumer research is a study of consumers' behavior, preferences, and decision-making processes to understand what influences their purchasing choices. Having an in-depth understanding of consumers is significant in ensuring that the products being offered appeal to the target market. The following are ways in which consumers can be analyzed by their demographic information for market research purposes. First, we have age and generational cohorts. Consumers can be classified as part of a generational cohort based on the year that they were born. These cohorts give researchers a tool to analyze changes in views over time, which provides a way to understand how different experiences define a generation's outlook on life. People can be roughly divided into the following generational cohorts. First, we have the baby boomers, which are those born between 1946 to 1964. The end of the World War II was a key event that formed a marker for this generation, and the name came from the fact that there was a huge baby boom after men came home from the war. Economic growth and full-time employment followed after the Depression and years of war, while austerity was replaced by technological advancement and more freedom. An increase in immigration was also observed. Baby boomers are one of the largest and wealthiest generations. As they age, they continue to be big spenders and create big impact on the retail market, which is an important thing for buyers and merchandisers to take note of. Next is the Generation X, which consists of those born between 1965 and 1979. Generation X grew up during the advent of computers, which shaped their lifestyle and ways of working. Other than the millennials and Gen Z, the Gen X are also prolific users of social media. The Gen X see their jobs as more temporary than the previous generations, and they see convenience as something of high value. This bred a live-in-the-moment spending style amongst this generation, who spend more on hobbies and meals out than they do on fashion due to the idea that they should enjoy little disposable income that they have. The Gen X are also less concerned about their appearance compared to other generations, which is why retailers need to think carefully about how to target them. The next generation are the Generation Y, or more commonly known as Millennials. Millennials are those born between 1980 to 1995. They enter the workforce amidst an economic recession, causing many to experience a slow start on their career path. This factor shaped many of their life choices and outlook. Millennials want freedom of expression and freedom of choice. Thus, they expect to have a wide variety of sales channels, product types, and brands available to them. Academic researchers have found that millennials have a higher purchase frequency and make more impulse purchases compared to other cohorts. They are driving current and future retail sales, which makes them significant to fashion brands. For the next generation, we have Generation Z, which are those born between 1996 to 2010. The Gen Z have been brought up surrounded by technology from the beginning of their lives. They are very fashion conscious due to the influence of social media and often update their wardrobes. This generation is a huge consumer of influencer content, making the incorporation of influencer marketing strategies crucial for brands targeting this cohort. And for the last generation, we have Generation Alpha, which consists of those born between 2011 to 2005. While Generation Alpha has grown up with all of the technology of the previous generations, most of them have had their lives documented on social media by their millennial parents. While it is too early to tell, it will be interesting to see how their experiences will shape their outlook and shopping habits. Next, let's discuss the aging population and what it means for buyers and merchandisers. Older people in today's world are healthier, better educated, and more active than previous generations. This has had a significant impact on the fashion retail market. Due to the aging population, there is a new opportunity for fashion retailers to create collections suited for an older target market. Retailers are also becoming more interested in the older market as the youth market has become too saturated. However, the interests and purchases of the older target market vary dramatically from younger consumers, which creates a challenge for retailers to meet the demands of the new old. Next, under consumer research. Next, we have gender. Gender is another important aspect for fashion brands and retailers to consider. When planning a product range, it is essential for fashion brands and retailers to understand the characteristics and what their targeted gender looks for in a product. While fashion consumption is often associated with women, men are also starting to take interest in fashion more than ever before. According to Intel, it is found that men are less frequent to buy clothes than women do, but they tend to buy in bulks. It was also found that men tend to show greater affinity to branded clothing than women. On the other hand, women show a higher level of sustainable consumption, which implies that sustainability needs to be at the core of a brand's values and strategies in the future. With that said, it is also important to note that gender fluidity has become more accepted and is on the rise. Research suggests that men's shopping behavior may be changing to incorporate more traits previously associated to women's shopping habits. With that, it is important for merchandisers and buyers to consider the importance of gender fluidity's concept into the fashion world. Next, we have consumer typologies, which is divided into two categories: the fashion followers and the fashion leaders. Fashion trends spread through different types of consumers over time. According to the diffusion innovation theory by Rogers in 1983, people are grouped into these 5 categories based on how quickly they adopt new styles. We have innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and last, the laggards. Trends usually start with innovators and opinion leaders, moving to the majority, which are fashion followers at the peak stage, and eventually decline as the late adopters catch on. The model helps buyers and merchandisers decide when to introduce, promote, or discount products. Now let's delve into these 5 categories, starting with the fashion leaders, or the innovators and early adopters. Fashion leaders comprise 2.5 and 13% of the population respectively and can therefore be classified as fashion leaders. They are often risk takers and highly influential in terms of style, and they consider fashion as a symbol of social status, prestige, and success. Buyers for super fast fashion companies often work directly with fashion leaders to create their own range for the brands. This process is called brand collaboration. Moving on, the fashion followers, which are the early majority, late majority, and the laggards. They represent the majority of high street fashion consumers, and they are the consumers of mass-produced fashion. Buyers must tailor the majority of their range to meet the followers' needs and wants, as they are the key consumers of fashion.
Cultural differences. Fashion brands operate globally, so they must understand the cultural differences. To explain, culture refers to the shared values, beliefs, norms, traditions, and behaviors of a group, and it shapes how people think, act, and consume. Hofstede study, 1967 to 1973, states that across 72 countries that introduced the key cultural dimensions, including individualism versus collectivism. Collectivist cultures like Korea, China, Japan, Brazil, they prioritize group harmony, community, and shared interest. So in contrast, individualist cultures like US, UK, Canada, Australia, they emphasize independence and personal goals. Culture strongly influences clothing choices. So, fashion buyers must adapt products to fit cultural preferences such as a modesty standard like longer sleeves, higher necklines, and color meanings. For example, yung black it symbolizes mourning in UK, US, while white naman sa Japan, Far East, and red, it represents luck and prosperity in China. That's why they were wearing red always in Chinese New Year. Overall, culture influences fashion in every society. So in the Philippines naman, we also reflect collectivist values like tradition, religion, climate, and social harmony, rather than individual expression. Katulad dun sa color symbolism. Um, Makikita natin na they are bright colors, di ba? Yellow, red, blue. These are common during fiesta and celebration because it symbolizes joy, prosperity, and community spirit. Ibig sabihin, yung color is may meaning. Like, Kasi nga, since yung brighter colors na yon, it symbolizes na joy, yun yung ginagamit sa piyesta. Next is climate adaptation. Since for this one, since nasa tropical weather nga tayo, and most Filipino, they favor lightweight and breathable fabrics kasi nga, syempre, mainit. So, fabrics like cotton, linen, pinya. This just, to explain, this shows that environment and culture also shape the consumer preferences. Modesty and religion. So, yun nga, since na-influensyahan tayo ng Catholicismo, which is a dominant religion in the Philippines, it plays a significant role in shaping clothing norms, particularly in contexts considered as formal or sacred. So, technically, nai-influensyahan yung pananamit natin na maging modest and conservative. Iniiwasan natin yung mga low-cut, backless, or masyadong revealing na damit as a sign of respect for the religious setting and the community's traditional values. So, katulad nga dito sa Benilde, meron tayong clothing guidelines kasi nga, Catholic school tayo. May mga bawal, like excessively na revealing, yon. Last one is, traditional identity and community. Garments like Barong Tagalog and Filipiniana are worn during weddings, fiestas, and national events. So, by this example, nare-reflect na yung pagiging collectivist culture natin. Na people dress not just for themselves but also to show respect for tradition, family, and national identity. Idea generation. Directional shops. Idea generation is an important part of merchandising. Inspirational and directional research helps buyers to get ideas for new product ranges. Buyers visit directional shops or places to find inspiration, so they collect samples, photos, notes, and sketches to use as a starting point for new designs. For example nga, yung Morocco prints, colors and fabric nun, Malaysian and Indonesian batik, shisha embroidery. For example nga nung binigay ko kanina, if a Moroccan theme is forecasted as a future trend, buyers can get idea from different sources like streetwear, vintage clothes, social media, and aspirational brands. So sometimes, they travel to the places, for example, Morocco, para lang mapag-aralan nila yung colors, prints, and fabric, and so that they can apply those inspiration to make their products unique. Research can also come from different sources such as streetwear, vintage clothing, social media, and aspirational brands or retailers that target customers admire. However, the most important part is how buyers interpret the inspiration. Buyers must use their knowledge of customers, the market, the past sales data, to apply these ideas to the product range. Inspirational and directional research is a key part of product development because it helps improve how the final product looks and feels. Products need a point of difference to stand out from competitors. This can include fastenings, style details, color combination, finishing touches, and linings, which can influence consumers when comparing products between retailers. However, these trips can be expensive and time-consuming, so many retailers now use online research instead. So, ayun nga. For example, yung Malaysian and Indonesian batik. Syempre, most of the buyers na wanted to get inspiration from that, they would travel to Malaysia and Indonesia para mas lalo nila mapag-aralan yung culture behind it, yung prints, and yung mga fabric para lalo nila makita in person. Same din with shisha embroidery. Dito sa Pilipinas, we can also apply that. Most of the designers, nagsisearch muna sila ng fabric sa Divisoria para makakuha sila ng inspo na magagamit na ng fabric for the designs, ganon. Hindi lang yon. Buyers and merchandisers can use local cultural research as part of their inspirational and directional research by studying the traditional crafts and indigenous design. For example nga, yung pinag-aralan nila yung traditional weaving textiles like inabel weaving, tinalak weaving. Syempre, hindi naman nila i-copy yun directly. Kasi hindi naman tayo plagiarism generation, di ba? Idea generation tayo. So, ang gagawin nila doon for ethical use is adapt the textures, color schemes, pattern styles for inspiration, hindi kokopyahin yung mga sacred motifs, yun. Pwede din naman yung mga jewelry accessories, mga indigenous na jewelry. Makuha lang sila ng inspo for that. Pero, hindi mo kakapi directly. Parang i-incorporate mo lang yung shapes, forms, and arrangement na ideas nun. Tapos, i-apply mo sa modern accessory. Pero yun nga, iba na yung kokopyahin kasi papasok na siya sa, plagiarism na yun. Pwede din naman local festivals and costumes like yun nga, Ati-Atihan Festival, Panagbenga Festival. Makuha sila ng mga inspo about doon. Like, mga color palettes, layering, or movement ng costumes, ganon. Pero hindi nila dapat kopyahin yon attire na exact. Or pwede din naman yung mga architecture houses, like, yun nga, dito, vegan houses, intramuros walls. Pwede naman nila gawin ang na-inspo yung mga geometric forms nun, colors, or structural silhouettes. Pero, we should be careful of, cultural appropriation. Kumbaga, kunwari, if the buyer is interested in Apple Wang-Od tattoo designs, in Philippine merchandising context, it's important to be respectful and ethical when using cultural inspiration. Like yun nga, yung Apple Wang-Od tattoo designs. Buyers and merchandisers should focus on understanding the culture, not copying it directly, to avoid cultural appropriation. So, what buyers should avoid? Maybe yung first of all is directly copying the sacred designs, ignoring the cultural meaning, commercializing it without collaboration or credit, stereotyping or generalizing the Filipino culture. Yun yung mali. Ang ethical approach nito is siguro focus on the elements, inspired by the culture nun, hindi exact na replication. Or maybe collaborate with the artisans or community, partner with the local weavers, hindi yung wala silang alam. Dapat ma-educate din yung consumers. Yun nga, use inspirations. Not use the sacred symbols. Trend forecasting. A fashion trend shows that direction fashion is heading, whether it is gaining or losing consumer acceptance. Brands use trend forecasting based on design knowledge, marketing, history, current events, and consumer business data to predict the future styles. Forecasts are made 18 to 24 months in advance so buyers and designers can create the products that match the future demand and are ready to sell at the right time. Forecasting companies provide guidance on colors, fabrics, silhouettes, themes, patterns, and styling. Buyers do not create the forecast themselves. Instead, they analyze forecasting data and use it to shape product ranges. Designers focus on adapting the key trends for retailers' target market, while the buyers use this information to plan the assortments and make in-season decisions. Choosing the wrong trends can lead to poor sales and discounted stock, reducing the profits. For example, dito sa Pilipinas, fashion trends are often influenced by tropical climate and culture. So, trend forecasters may predict that maybe yung lightweight and breathable fabrics or linen, cotton, na magiging sikat sila na fabric para gamitin sa mga garments kasi nga mainit. Designers then also create pieces like modern turn tops, relaxed dresses, or mga updated na barong inspired shirt para tupit nga both tradition and comfort. So, Filipino designers like Rajo Laurel often interpret emerging fashion trends by blending Filipino heritage with modern design, such as the growing interest in indigenous weaves like Abel or Inabel. However, designers do not usually create the formal trend forecast themselves, as these are mainly produced by forecasting agencies and market research groups. In short, trend forecasting dito sa Pilipinas will help the brand to decide what Filipinos will likely wear in the future. Trend forecasting tools. Fashion trend prediction helps fashion professionals like buyers and designers decide what clothes and style will be popular in the next season. This helps them design and buy the right products to sell. Buyers look at the different sources to understand the future trends, such as number one is trend forecasting packages, which is professional trend report. For example, sa Pilipinas, spring summer PH trend forecast. It may be lightweight barong fabrics, tropical prints, sustainable local textiles. Yan. Next one is the trend forecasting magazines. Yun nga, local fashion magazines like Preview, Metro, Mega. So, ang ginamit kong example dito is yun nga, yung Bini. Kasi sikat sa mga younger generation and it may be trendier. Yun nga. Next one is trend forecasting websites. So, ang ginamit ko namang example dito is yung preview.ph. Hindi yung preview magazine, pero yeah. Metro style trend articles, gano'n, katulad nun, mga Filipino fashion blogs. Next one is fashion weeks, where, ayun, designers present new styles. Mga Philippine Fashion Week runway, bench fashion week, etc. Anyway, we will discuss it later as I present. Next one is garment trade shows. Yung mga textile fairs, etc. Anyway, next one is trade shows. This is the events where the businesses shows new products. Doon sa trade show, papasok yung dalawa na to, which is garment trade shows and fashion trade shows. The next one is yun nga, fashion trade shows. Trend forecasting packages. Trend forecasting packages help fashion companies predict future trends up to 18 months ahead using the trend boards and sketches. They are released every 6 months and they are expensive, making them hard for the small independent retailers to afford. However, many companies still consider them valuable because of the detailed insights they provide. Basically, trend forecasting packages are the paid guides that help the fashion brands predict the future trends. But, yun nga, bigger companies lang yung nakakapag-afford sa kanila kasi nga mahal. So, yun nga, by example, yung Philippine streetwear is tumaas ng December. Maybe Bench and Pen Shop can afford this global trend forecast packages para mas ma-adapt nila sa Filipino consumers yung looser streetwear nila and para mas mapag-aralan nila yung suitability dito sa humid weather natin, etc. Aside from the trends and stuff. Trend forecasting magazines. Trend forecasting magazines are another long-standing traditional way for fashion business to get fashion trend information. The magazines are more accessible way of gathering trend forecasting information in terms of price, and they are also produced more frequently than trend forecasting packages. So, many Filipino designers and small fashion businesses cannot afford the full forecasting packages. So, they rely on trend forecasting magazines and online articles instead. Kasi nga, mas cheaper and accessible, which makes them practical for local businesses. Hindi lang designers but also students, merchandisers, local buyers. Marami sa kanila is bumibili ng magazines to look at the trends. For example, nga nung magazine is the Preview magazine. Pinifeature nila yung anik-anik couture, which is layered accessories, charms, trinkets, and personalized item. Since it reflects that ito yung current trending sa mga Gen Z, current youth trend, buyers and merchandisers can use these magazine features para maintindihan nila na kung saan interested ba yung mga Filipino young consumers, or kung anong trend ba yung trending ngayon, na yun nga ay mga accessories na sikat, yan, or mga styling trends. This shows that magazines help identify local trends, not just the international ones. Another example is the pop culture influence, which is yung mga bini editorials in Parsing magazine. It reflects how the P-pop and idol fashion influence the Filipino consumers. Yun nga, merchandisers can observe the color combination and silhouettes, mga styling nila, and how pop culture affects the fashion demand. So, yun nga, another example is the Nylon Manila, which highlights Filipino identity in contemporary styles. Makikita dito yung mga local designers and creative scenes, and youth cultures, lifestyle trends. Bali, maintindihan ng mga buyers dito yung cultural directions na may influence the future product ranges, mga ganon. And lastly, yung Vogue. This one, kini-feature dito yung Baguio and Beyond, or Weavers and Warriors, that shows the heritage crafts and indigenous textiles as part of modern fashion conversations. Buyers and merchandisers can observe the growing interest in Filipino heritage. And yun nga, textile tradition, craftsmanship. It just shows that this type of magazine just shows that longer term cultural direction can also influence future trends in Philippine market. Yun. Trend forecasting websites. The first trend forecasting websites appeared in the late 1990s and early 2000s, transforming how the fashion industry tracked and predicted trends. By moving online, these companies allowed buyers and designers to access the updated trend information every day, which is crucial in the fast-changing industry like fashion. These websites not only shared predictions about important colors, patterns, and seasonal styles, but also they offer detailed reports and expert commentary to help users understand the direction of fashion. Unlike traditional trend forecasting methods that is mainly focused on top-down influences from major designers and fashion houses, online platforms also began tracking bottom-up trends. Researchers monitored social media platforms such as Instagram and Pinterest, along with the street style photos, like this one, to identify emerging ideas from everyday people and fashion influencers. Because of the internet, trend forecasters could continuously update their findings, quickly adding new insights and unexpected developments or overlooked trends as they appeared. So, yun nga, sa Pilipinas, since yung mga tao dito is more connected na through social media and digital platforms, mas may access na yung mga local designers, brands, small businesses, mga global and local trends. Mas mabilis na yung adapt ng styles. Yun nga, kunwari sa Instagram or Pinterest, si Kultura Pilipino is nag-post ng crop top Filipiniana, which is basically a western trend with a local identity. Ganon. So, yung mga trend forecasters na nagmo-monitor nitong mga sites na to is makikita nila yung popularity ng yung paggamit ng modernized traditional clothing. So, mas mabilis na yun mas mabilis na kumalat yung trend, and since alam na ng mga trend forecasters kung ano yung trending ngayon, mas mabilis na yung pagligay nila dito sa mga data gatherings and insight nila. Fashion weeks. The four major fashion weeks, New York, London, Milan, and Paris, which occur twice a year, February and September, to showcase designers' upcoming seasonal collections. They are the prestigious events that attract global buyers and luxury brands. Now, global expansion. Recently, fashion weeks have spread to the cities worldwide, including Denmark, Australia, Brazil, Canada, New Zealand, India, Japan, China, and Hong Kong. That way, it offers more inspiration for buyers and consumers. Despite this, the traditional four remains the most influential. Now, modern changes. Fashion weeks have become more public, inviting influencers and PR companies with shows that is often streamed online. This wider access has accelerated consumer demand for trends and rapid fashion changes. As a result, retailers now balance the high cost of attending fashion weeks with digital research, which is more accessible to smaller brands. So, yun nga. Dati kasi yung mga fashion weeks na yan is invitation only. Exclusive sa mga buyers, which is yun nga, very close lang yung mga events na yon. So ngayon, para makapag-generate ng publicity, mga invitation is extended na din sa influencers and PR companies para ma-promote yung events and brands and collections. So, according to Stone 2012, it can be argued that this increased access to trend and product information has shortened consumer attention span when it comes to fashion making for appetite, rapid change for more prevalent than ever. So now, retailers now weigh the cost of sending buyers to attend the fashion weeks, as well as the global trade shows, as opposed to just staying the office and gathering information on each of them through internet sources, as both are expensive ways of conducting research, making them inaccessible to the smaller brands. So yun nga, sa Pilipinas, meron din tayong fashion events like Philippine Fashion Week, which showcase local designers like Rahul Laurel and Michael Leba or Leba. Yun nga, these events highlight Filipino craftsmanship, sustainable materials, modern takes on pinya, abaka. So, if nakastream ito sa Facebook or online sites or websites, mas madaming Filipino consumers ang makakapag-engage directly with local and global collections. So yun nga, since mahal yung mga international fashion events or weeks, mas makakatulong yung online platforms and local fashion events like this one sa mga smaller Philippine local brands. Or hindi lang Philippines, kahit any local brands. For trend research and exposure sa mga global practices. Yan. Trade shows. Trade shows are the large exhibitions where suppliers from around the world showcase their garments or fabrics depending on the event's focus. They typically occur twice a year along February and September, aligning with traditional fashion seasons and allowing buyers to place orders up to 6 months ahead. Attendance is valuable not only for purchasing but also for gaining inspiration on color palettes, prints, and fabric trends which can influence overall product ranges. There are two main categories for trade shows. One is the fabric trade shows and next is the garment trade shows. Each focuses on specific areas such as yarn, etc. Buyers usually attend the shows that is most relevant to their retailer or department. So yun nga nilagay ko dito is the Manila Fame event. Typically inoccur siya in bare months or either February or bare months siguro. And then sa World Trade Center, which is malapit lang yan sa Hilpuyat. One ride lang yan sa jeep. Anyway. Yun nga. Yung Manila Fame na yun is it allows suppliers, designers, and artisans to present their products to the local and international buyers like this one, Bakong, Pinyapel, diba? May mga handcrafted clothing dyan, fashion accessories, wearable products, lifestyle goods, etc. That reflects the Filipino design and craftsmanship. So, if interested ka doon, why not go, diba? Fabric trade shows and garment trade shows. So, dito nilagay ko na lang is mga Philippine events rather than international ones. Since it is more accessible to us and more relevant. Para na din mapunta ng mga taong interested. Or, yon para na din malaman ng mga iba. Since ako nga, hindi ko alam to na may ganito pala. Tapos nung na-research ko lang, doon ko lang nalaman. Anyway, sa public trade shows first is 2026 National Textile Convention. Ginaganap siya sa Philippine International Convention Center. This one is, nangyari na to noong January. So, hopefully, next year na lang, sana meron pa ulit, diba? Next one is Likhang Hobby Market Fair 2025. Wala kasi ako nakita 2026 na announcement. So, yun nga, typically occurs ng bare months. Then, sa One Ayala, Makati City ginaganap. They showcase the art and legacy of Filipino weaving. So, yun. Baka interested po kayo. Manila Fame. Typically, bare months nga. Hindi ako sure sa date na yan since parehas itong nakalagay na parehas silang Manila Fame pero magkaiba yung date. But, if you are interested, maybe follow their social media na lang. So, yun. Typically, dun nga sa World Trade Center nga siya ginaganap. And then, next one is DTI National Trade Fair, February 2026. So, nangyari na sa SM Mega Mall naman siya ginaganap. Garment trade shows naman. Number one is Philippine Lifestyle Sourcing Expo, which is ginaganap siya sa SMX Convention Center naman, which is Samoa. So, anong meron dito? May trade show din dito for fashion fabrics, lifestyle products. It brings a local and international suppliers, manufacturers, retailers, and buyers together in a one event. Yun. It is usually ideal siya for sourcing garments, textile, footwear, bags, and more. So, this one is ginanap noong 2025. I don't know if meron pang event noong 2026, so best i-follow na lang din sa social media. Yun nga, Manila Fame. Yes, to explain na lang din. For buyers, there are several advantages of going to trade shows. First, they are great sources of inspiration for upcoming seasons. Buyers are able to see the wide range of colors, fabrics, and garments in person, which will help them to make better informed decisions. Second, trade shows also enable buyers to meet potential suppliers. Yun nga. Meeting in person is much more effective way to build up the buyer-supplier relationship and put the buyer in much a better position for negotiation. Mas may chance na makapag-communicate ka fast rather than online kasi bibigyan ka ng call card dun eh. However, there are also disadvantages of going to trade shows. Kasi, yun nga, time-consuming and involves a lot of traveling, lalo na kung hindi ka taga Maynila. Siyempre, time-consuming, yun nga. Thus, preventing the buyer from carrying out the rest of their duties. This is particularly relevant in contemporary fashion industry where lead times are pushed to be short as possible and buyers are having to be very reactive to consumer demand. The reason alone means that the majority of the super fast fashion brands will not attend those events. Furthermore, it is expensive for the buyer to travel to them, eating into companies' profits. Yet, for the buyers who cannot attend many or any trade shows, trade sources such as Japers and YGSM, they had the full detail of all the shows and exhibitors on their websites, keeping them informed. So, this mitigates some of the risk of not attending them in person. So, yun nga, meron silang access sa YGSN, then, hindi na nila need umattend mga ganyan-ganyan. Pero sa mga wala, this one is, very helpful nga. Only siguro, if pumunta ka kung malapit ka sa mga, event shows na yan. Pero kung malayo, maybe, siguro, yun nga, online, na lang. From top down to bottom up. Trend forecasting in fashion has traditionally followed a top-down approach, where brands dictated seasonal trends to consumers. However, the rise of the internet and Web 2.0 platforms like Instagram, blogs, and YouTube has shifted the balance of influence. Over the past decades, consumers have gained more power, with street style and influencer-driven trends becoming just as significant as traditional fashion weeks. Many now look to fashion leaders on social media for inspiration rather than magazines or traditional media. This figure is a circular example of how trends in social media influence range planning. So yun nga. This shift, along with the growth of celebrity and influencer culture, has made trend forecasting less predictable. Trends can emerge rapidly online, forcing buyers to act quickly to meet the consumer demand. In addition, political and social events are increasingly shaping trends. Like, this one. Ba? Like, ang ganda ng ano na dito. Clubs. Anyway, influencing not only high fashion runways but also street fashion and social media content. As a result, modern brands must adopt a hybrid approach, combining traditional forecasting methods with real-time insights from social media and street styles. This creates a circular top-down and bottom-up strategy, balancing a brand-led direction with consumer-driven trends. So, anong meaning nun? Dati kasi, yung mga trend forecasting na yon is followed by a top-down approach, which means is, yung mga fashion brand and designers mismo yung magde-decide kung ano yung trend na isusuot ng mga tao each season. So, yung mga consumer na yon is binibili yung mga pina-follow nila yung mga nakikita nila sa fashion shows and yung mga binibili nilang magazine. Yung mga style doon. Pero ngayon iba na. Since laganap na nga yung internet and social media like Instagram, blogs, YouTube, yung proseso today is iba na. Ngayon, yung mga consumer na to or everyday people, they can also influence the trends, not just the designers. This is called a bottom-up influence. For example nga, yung mga local influencers and TikTok creators, yung hindi ko na ilagay dito sa mga picture na to, pero yung mga influencers like Neo, may mga na-influence silang outfit like Reyna ng QC outfitan, Holta X Escolta esoteric outfits, and ano pa ba? Yung mga yon is galing lang sa mga everyday people and street style. Diba? Hindi siya galing sa mga designer. So, because may mga influencers and yun nga, at isama na din natin yung mga actors na ito, yon tulad ng Chinese Adidas outfitan. It is now harder for the fashion buyers to predict the trends. Trends can become popular very quickly in social media, so brands need to react fast to keep up. So ngayon, yung ginagawa ng mga fashion brand is kino-combine nila yung mga traditional forecasting from fashion show and yung mga social media and street style research. This means na both designers and consumers are working together in a more circular way. The future of trend forecasting. Christopher et al. 2004 argued that fashion products are becoming increasingly difficult to forecast due to the strong bottom-up influences like social media and influencers. The immediate visibility of designer collections, accelerated by live stream fashion shows and models such as Burberry's 2016 See Now Buy Now approach, heightens consumer demand quickly. Despite this trend, forecasting remains largely reliable because fashion is cyclical, and only a few unexpected factors disrupt prediction each season. Retailers can therefore plan most of their range using forecasting while reserving the part of their budget for in-season adjustment to respond to the unforeseen trends. So, yun nga, katulad ng sabi ko kanina. Since, laganap na nga yung social media, sa Pilipinas, local influencers and celebrity can make a style viral overnight. Katulad nitong Mahal Kita Hayop Ka, towel top. Saglit lang siya nag-emerge. So, Filipino retailers and designer still rely on and budgeting para hindi sila makapag-invest sa hindi masayang pera nila sa unexpected na local fad or fad trend. Yun nga. Kasi sayang, di ba, kung kunwari, nag-invest ka sa specific trend na yon, nasabi ng artista, madaming gumagamit ng something na yon. And then, after a week, parang wala na, parang hindi na siya sikat ulit. Di ba, parang sayang na invest mo and budget mo. So, it's best na mag-rely pa rin dun sa trend forecasting rather than mga influencer. Chapter summary. The chapter explains how buyer and merchandisers carefully plan a product range using tools like market research, past sales data, consumer insights, and trend forecasting, all while staying true to the brand's mission and values. Fashion retailers now have more ways to segment the market, considering generational differences or consumer tendency to adopt the trends early or late. With the rise of technology and social media, the influence of consumers, especially fashion leaders, has grown, shifting power from a top down model to a bottom up approach, where consumers determine which styles succeed or fail, according to Stone 2012. Basically, all of this chapter, it explains that mga fashion buyers and merchandisers is nagsasagawa muna sila ng research and planning bago sila bumili or magbenta. Additionally, fashion brands can better understand different groups of customers like different age groups katulad ng Gen Z. This helps stores to choose items that fit in their target market. So yun nga, sa Pilipinas there is a bottom up approach kasi nga most Filipinos follow influencers online. And so this can affect what stores ang mabenta or bebenta. Pero for me personally, mas importante pa rin yung magsagawa ka ng research and planning rather than mag-follow sa mga influencers kasi nga what if it's a fad, 'di ba? It's better to know before investing on something